Hello friends, Mr. E here reporting live for Sloptide News Network, your most trusted source for all things Darktide, and of course, Slop. Today, it brings patch 1.11.2 to Darktide, which is a bug-fixing patch first and foremost. Tons of bugs with the expeditions and the sort of surrounding systems, and hopefully there's at least one note in here that makes me optimistic that they might have fixed an issue that I've been having with Havoc that has made it a very, very frustrating experience to play, and maybe you've been experiencing it too. But we'll get to that in a moment, not before I say if you want to support independent games journalism like Sloptide News Network, then you must support Mr. E and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your patronage. Let's go ahead and begin down here. It's mostly quality of life changes, mostly by that, it's just a couple quality of life, and then mostly fixes, as you can see. Now I'm just going to be highlighting the ones that I think are most prevalent, because most of these are very, very small, and many people are not encountering them. So first of all, they are adding sound effects for the Expedition's Auspex marker. Basically, when you ping something, it will sort of notify your team that, hey, someone pinged, check your radar so you can see where they're going, right? Personally, I'm still on team, please just make all of the different symbols, the different main locations on those Auspex maps appear on the compass at the top of the map at all times. Currently, you have to have a player on the team tag it, and then it will appear on that compass. So each player can tag a different location, and then you'll have all of them, or at least 4 of them on the compass. And I think it's such a better way, because no one really likes to pull out the Auspex over and over and over again to make certain you are kind of generally oriented towards where you're going. And they could still implement something like this, where when a player tags one of them, it highlights it or it pings it and makes it kind of have like a glowing effect to it, so that you know someone is interested in going there, or like simply just puts like your little character like arrow icon over the top of it or something. All that could still go on, but yeah, I think that the best thing they could possibly do here is add everything to the compass, because right now it's just, I hate pulling up the Auspex over and over. It's so annoying. They made it easier to perform some of the jumps necessary to complete certain sites of interest. This hopefully is also going to really help Ogren, because Ogren, I was having lots of issues platforming with Ogren, because Ogren has sort of a weird hitbox and doesn't mantle as easily as other characters, so he would just kind of roll off of like nearly missed jumps, and he is just so clumsy in those situations. Ranged enemies won't just now hit scan you down when you're in a sand vortex. Previously, ranged enemies were shooting you as if you were standing still, more or less, when you're in a sand tornado, and that was just pretty much guaranteed killing you, because those things can last 10 to 15 seconds. Sometimes it feels like they can even juggle you multiple times, which is pretty fucking terrible. Terrible. All right, now onto the general fixes, and starting with a really, really big one here. AMD FSR 3.1 is fixed. So frame gen, personally, I believe that was one of the greatest updates for the game, is when they added frame gen FSR. I use DLSS now, but FSR is also really good. It's just something that Darktide needs, honestly, in order to stabilize its engine's frames. And I know a lot of people are wholeheartedly against it or whatever, but FSR is really, really good, and the update that brought that really improved the sort of experience, the graphical experience a lot. So they knocked this out. This was broken since the Expedition patch came out. Thankfully, they got it fixed, because I know a lot of players were very dismayed by this. They made a nerf to my boy, the veteran, who was able to give every player on the team full grenades if they just took from the ammo crate, which was in the Sanctuary, the Dead-Sided Sanctuary and Expeditions, because that was counted as an ammo crate. And if you had the talent Field Improvisation, when you get an ammo crate, when you take from an ammo crate, you will get full grenades. So yeah, that's a nerf to our boy there, but hey, it's okay. I wonder if this is mentioned, and maybe I'm putting the Hive Scum on blast here, but Hive Scum also has an aura that when you pick up from an ammo crate, it replenishes 10, or pick up an ammo supply of some sort, small or large ammo, it replenishes 10% of that ammo's value to all of your teammates within coherency. I wonder if they fix that as well, if they will, because that was allowing Hive Scum to pick up from the big bucket, and because the big bucket is literally infinite ammo, it fills your ammo, it was giving full ammo to everybody else as well. so that is also another way of cheating the system a little bit there. But the intended thing here is that you will pay $50, 50 scrap instead of 10 scrap to get all your grenades back. They fixed the sand visual effects, as they said right here. This is the same, well, no, this is a different thing. The sand visual effects There was invisible tornadoes. I got swept up by one time. Not very fun. Also, definitely not very fun when ranged enemies would shoot you. You get swept up by an invisible tornado and be like, what the fuck? And then you get killed while you're in the air. And then you're really like, what the fuck? Data harvester penances now count data reliquaries retrieved by your teammates as well as intended. This was an absolute free-for-all bloodbath. This apparently was only counting the player who scored the reliquaries. So I don't know. I haven't checked yet, and I have no way of like knowing whether or not they did. But I don't know if the game was actually tracking any of these scores outside of for the person who was actually collecting them on the team, because previously it was just the person who put it into the machine or was carrying it when you extract in the Valkyrie. So this hopefully will give players retroactive credit, but I don't know for certain, and it would really, really suck because I know a lot of players were trying to grind penances, and this one, about half of players were in the know that, oh shit, I have to be holding this thing in order to get credit, and the other half were blissfully unaware that players were stealing their penance experience from them. So hopefully they can retroactively fix that. Fixed an issue where Psyker's Malefic Momentum was only increasing duration for the warp damage, so they increased the duration on this talent from 8 seconds to 10 seconds, which is a great little buff for it, but I was noticing that it didn't feel any longer. I guess this is why, because when you're getting those kills with your warp damage, you were, or with your regular kills, it wasn't adding more duration for the warp damage. You were running out really, really quickly. So yeah, that's why. Plasma Gun, I don't know exactly what they had actually or accidentally lowered the cleave to, but the intended is above 18. Still a ridiculous amount of cleave. This is still effectively a railgun, because the highest cleave that I am aware of outside of this in the game is currently a 6 point something on the bolter, the non AoE, the like fast firing bolter, which is ludicrous. So this is still an absurd amount of cleave. Rare crash occurring interacting with the Cybermastiff. Steady grip. They fixed steady grip. Okay, I noticed this and I was unsure if it just only applies to continuous fire weapons, but I did go ahead and test this. So now this will trigger it will trigger some regeneration, really no matter what weapon you're using, because just for the moment that you are effectively quote-unquote shooting the weapon, even if it's a single shot weapon like the kickback or the rumbler, you will still get a little taste of some toughness. Obviously, it's going to work better for more consistent shooting weapons, but yeah, that I thought that was maybe intentional, but it turns out it was a bug. That's very nice. Ogun's Big Friendly Rock was not killing the eyes, which is part of a penance, so that's silly. Psychonetic's aura wasn't localizing. Oh hey, here's another really, really big one here. Hive Scum's Channel Devastation talent, which gives you 0.5% of melee damage for every current percentage chance crit that you have. I don't know why I worded it like that, but every percentage of crit chance that you have. And the Hive Scum is a class that very casually has about 50% crit chance at least. And I was noticing that a lot of times I was not fully stacked. I was like not getting the maximum of 15% of the damage here, meaning that I had less than 30% crit chance, and I knew that couldn't be the case. So I wonder, I didn't get a chance to like actually test, but hey, they fixed it here, so glad I didn't waste the time doing it. But I wonder what wasn't being calculated in the overall arithmetic here to add it up. We had some clipping issues, we had some sound issues with bombs dropping, we had some low resolution Deadsider sanctuaries, which were fun. I wonder if they fixed the issues with like the artifacting and stuff in there. This is one that I think I might have had a hand in getting fixed. Fixed an issue with players getting killed while they're outside the airlock when it closes and there's bots inside. So this is a really rare instance that would occur now, but on the test server, because there weren't really that many players going around, a lot of people were playing with bots, or at least I was playing with bots. So typically, or currently when you're playing, right, if you've got 3 players and they go into the airlock to go to the sanctuary, and 1 player is standing outside, you have 30 seconds to get in, and then the game just says fuck you and it closes the doors. And if you're outside, you just get insta-gibbed. It just kills you, and you can respawn inside, because you're dilly-dallying around. That is not what's supposed to happen if you're playing solo, right? If you're playing solo and you go in, you open the doors, and then you dilly-dally around outside, it'll close the doors, and then you have to go to the extract, go to the plane to extract instead of continuing your run, which is like the intended mechanic. However, if you had bots with you, as I discovered, I went into this thing, and then I realized that I had dropped my reliquary, my little Power Cell Reliquary outside, and I ran back out to get it, got grabbed by a mutant, pulled away, had to deal with that, and by that time the door was closed. And I was like, fuck, well, I guess... And then, boom, insta-dead. I'm like, what the hell? Turns out the bots were still inside. The bots went on to the next part of the mission, and I was left for dead. Unfortunately, they didn't res me, so I never got to see the end of that one. Fixed a mismatch, and this was the people were memeing on Fatshark because they didn't know the they made it clear they didn't know what these Greek letters were actually called because they had different names and the associated Greek symbols. Interesting. We had a bunch of node icons. I wonder what this one means. Fixed navigation issues. Maybe this is for enemy navigation or something. This is the one that I'm very interested in, and I'm wondering if this is the issue that I've been encountering. The game now shows an error pop-up when engine components fail to load in order to help diagnose issues. So, currently there is a really nasty bug that has occurred previously in seemingly like every time there's a major update. Havoc has these issues, where everybody in the game will be yeeted out of the game to your desktop instantly, and it will give you an access violation, and it'll say like the game tried to draw something or render something that doesn't exist, and then it just kicks everybody out. And that obviously, because everybody's kicked out of the game, it just kills the server instantly and you lose the game, and so you lose your Havoc attempt. I had this happen to me 2 times in 6 games the other night, and very, very frustrating because it can happen at literally any time. And last time around, I remember in the last major update, this was caused by something to do with Psyker's what was it called? The wildfire talent, like jumping to certain types of enemies and causing this crash. So if you had a Psyker in your team and they had that talent, there was an off chance that it would jump to the wrong sort of target, and bada bing, bada boom, everybody crashed all at the same time. Only on PC though. So the way to avoid that is by playing on console. The best way to not lose your games instantly on Havoc now is to have one console player who's like your anchor that you can all rejoin on. But hopefully that's what they're talking about here. Maybe they can diagnose and fix those issues so they can stop happening every update. We had some issues with players crashing when people drop tech remnants. You can lose your auspex when you're interacting with a decoder and never be able to get it back, meaning you couldn't hack anything or navigate from that point on, which was so funny. They had looping Valkyrie sounds. They had the fire support Valkyrie, which is the most expensive of the Valkyries. It comes in and it gives you like supporting fire for a little while. This one, I spent 150 scrap to get this, and it literally just didn't show up. I threw it down and it was like, okay, where is it? And then it just never came. So I'm imagining this is what it is. It fails to move. It just stays where it spawns in. It doesn't come to you at all. And yeah, there you go. There's not too much else here that's of a whole lot of interest. We have to talk about cosmetic fixes as everyone's favorite part of the Sloptide news. The biggest one here today is that Ogun's right knees were visible and just very salacious. It was clipping through their clothing when they were kneeling. It's just inappropriate. I know this is an M-rated game, but please, let's keep it like, you know, kind of at least a little bit civil. And known issues, a lot of these, I can't even vouch for how many of these are legitimately currently still issues, because half of these, it seems like, have fixed right next to them. Fixed, fixed, fixed. And then up here, we have ones like this that are, which, you know, the auspex is getting knocked out of your hands and never being able to be recovered. This is already said they fixed it right here. So I think maybe this part of the post is a little bit outdated, like, you know, maybe they got the wires crossed a little bit and they didn't include that. So yeah, there you go. That is everything. Not a very interesting Sloptide news. You know, just a lot of bug fixes. Hopefully some bug fixes that you were encountering. If you are tuning in to hear other news, well, there is some other news, but I'm working on a more dedicated video about that stuff because there have been some rather interesting leaks today. So maybe you'll hear about that later in the evening. Thanks for watching, everyone. Mr. E is out of here, and bye-bye.